Hi, we're Candor Beach, and we bring to you our take on world events and how they impact consumer psychology in India and around the world. So, Salvesh, going autopilot, what are your thoughts?
So Autopilot, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff like automation in different industries, how it's going to affect, different consumer psychology, how it's going to affect people, and their employment. What it's going to do in the future.
Perfect. So, in my opinion, automation offers three things: it offers accessibility, it offers speed, it offers scale. From an accessibility perspective, think about drone technology. Think about like if there was a landslide or if there was a natural disaster of some sort. Now, if I had drones, I could deploy them at any point in time. So I guess it would cover speed, it would cover scale, it would cover accessibility all in one, wherein it is able to access areas that human beings might not be able to. Again, in terms of a natural disaster like an earthquake, this is a scenario that could happen. In terms of speed, maybe I, as a human being, am not able to get to a certain spot, but with a drone, I can just fly in, a drone can just fly in and spot individuals in need of help. In terms of scale, I could just deploy 10 drones, 20 drones, 30 drones. I might not be able to deploy as many human beings considering safety issues. Like first responders are also people that I'd want to keep safe.
Exactly. So with drones, so if we talk about the scale, right? So for example, the natural disasters. So if there's a flood
Mm-hmm.
and people are floating in water, so basically you can use multiple drones in all directions and go and see where people are actually located, more peoples. So with that, you can actually point out what kind of first responders you can send to, where is it more people are there. So yeah, that way scale
Yeah,
drones
you
will
can
help.
send out a lot of drones
Yeah,
and you have scale, absolutely.
and speed too. With regards to that, it'll actually increase your speeding capacity. So you can send out multiple drones, and these drones are not slow; they're fast. They can go up to a lot of distances pretty fast. So because
Hmm.
you have, like they're not like it's lightweight, so they can go faster, right?
And they have no requirements, right? Like they're just there ready to deploy as opposed to putting on a life jacket. Like if you were a human being and you were talking about let's say the Titanic just stuck an iceberg. I
Yeah,
don't have that issue where I am concerned about human safety anymore. I just send drones
yeah.
and I survey the area. I know what's going on there. I can make a more strategic decision in terms of how I need to get there. All right. So, accessibility, speed, scale. Are there other examples where which we can talk about?
So drones, one of the major example we can talk about in the agriculture industry.
Hmm.
So drones help, basically you can put fertilizer or pesticides, for foliar fertilizer, deploy the drone, spread the foliar fertilizer on your entire farm, and you can do it automated way. You can plug in the coordinates, where it's located, where to put the fertilizer, go and come back.
How
It,
practical is it? Are there use cases like in
yeah,
India?
yeah, in India recently, the government actually is giving out drones to the farmers
Central
to
government?
the state government recently did too.
Which
So
one?
the Andhra Pradesh state government recently gave, I don't know the proper number of drones, but it gave a few thousands to the farmers for fertilizer disbursement
Wow.
and pesticide disbursement. So I'd rather use it for fertilizer than the pesticide. I'd rather go organic. But basically, yeah, to increase the yield, farmers do use it for fertilizer and pesticides. So on scale perspective, that is very important. So some of the
But
farmers,
scale is such a versatile word, right? Like you talked about two use cases where scale matters. You talked about
Mhm.
pesticides, fertilizers. We could talk about scale when it comes to harvesting as well. We could talk
har-
about scale when it comes to planting.
the harvesting, when it comes, you cannot do it through drone, but
Ah,
I would
but
say the
tractors.
scale part. John Deere actually has automated harvesting tractors. So
Right.
there's these a harvesting tractor. There's the one which goes next to it, the collecting the truck next to which goes along with the tractor, right? So it collects the harvest. So
You know what's funny?
Hmm.
We were talking about how, like, again, think about the Titanic example. We were talking about how drones are going to be, or an earthquake, wherein, like, I don't have to send people into cold waters. I don't have to send people into a zone which has just had a landslide. So, to an extent, automation is protecting people. It is providing that angle of safety. But then, what if this tractor goes rogue? Or what if my missile systems go rogue? What if we have a Skynet?
Yeah, that is some. Yes, you have to think about it. That was the major concern for a lot of people, right? So
Terminator 2.
yeah, the AI
Hasta la
might take
vista.
over take over take over these systems. You never know. But the thing is, you need to have some kind of barriers for the safety and the security issues of these totally going autopilot.
Right, so accessibility, speed, scale, pros, cons, safety,
Safety, regulations. And
regulations how?
so recently, Tesla got sued, right, in federal court for having a fatal crash because the driver was on fully autopilot and crashed into a truck or something, right? So the driver was, I think he's dead on the spot. So that was one of the major issues. How much of this autopilot is for your safety?
All right, so I don't know if that speaks to regulations per se, but then what came to mind was protectionism, because automation to an extent reduces human intervention, and that would require fewer people employed in certain fields.
Yeah, I mean, look at McDonald's. McDonald's just recently opened, a fully automated store in Texas, so you can
Oh,
get your Big Mac with a
and
robot.
there's nobody there?
Nobody there. You just put in your order, and your order comes out. You could see the robot, basically making a Big Mac for you.
Oh wow, and it will bring in consistency, right? Because you
Yeah,
talked about how it's to an extent reduces human intervention, human errors.
yeah.
It
I
just
mean,
basically removes human errors.
it doesn't
So
just like I hope it doesn't break down like the McDonald's ice cream. The never ice creams never work, man. McDonald's.
yeah, I've heard. It's quite the
Yeah,
joke. Across the countries,
across the
across
country.
just the US, across every country.
I think
I
U.S.
feel like people have
In
had,
India, where I have no issues. I had McDonald's ice cream in India.
right. Yeah, I avoid ice cream, obviously,
Yeah.
because sugar. But yeah, like back in the day, back when we were in the 12th grade, I think, or just after, just like during college, it was hilarious. I'd go to the gym for 1.5 hours, and then I'd go play squash for half an hour, and then I'd go to the food court and have two ice cream cones.
Good time.
I wouldn't go to, like, at university, I wouldn't go for breakfast because the ice cream machine was closed. It was only available for lunch and dinner, and so I was like, nope, that's not happening. I'm skipping breakfast. I was
Screw the
addicted.
cafeteria, only for ice cream.
Yeah. So accessibility, speed, scale, pros. Cons, we
Yeah.
talked about safety. Safety could be a con. Um,
What about
uh,
surveillance? Like mass
surveillance would hit
surveillance.
security, right?
Yeah.
Surveillance would be a security issue.
So
Beyond,
we
no,
can
go
talk
ahead.
about surveillance. Like, how would you prevent these drones from over surveillancing you? Like, like how they can, you can program this drone and stalk somebody. How would you prevent that? Like, how would you reduce that?
I think you'd have to have a similar system as to what Apple has implemented with AirTags, like off the top of my head,
Hmm.
wherein your phones give you notifications if there are drones close by, active drones close by. That
Yeah.
is an example, but if you have multiple drones close by, I'll wait on Apple to come up with a better solution for their AirTags. But I think that's one way of doing it. Like, make sure that use regulations to make sure that every drone comes with this, wherein people who are being surveyed, like minus like for non-military purposes, but minus like for government or national security, people who are being surveyed are made aware. Like even considering national security, I think people have a right to know.
Yeah.
All right, so that's one thing. That's one security issue. But then Skynet, I think Skynet is also a massive security issue. Like, what if the computer just decides? I shouldn't say the computer. Is what if artificial intelligence just decides that to protect human beings, we need to eradicate them. Nukes.
It's like the iRobot movie, right? So.
I haven't watched the iRobot movie because I heard that the dog died.
Oh man, that's the reason you didn't watch
Spoiler. There was a dog on the poster. I heard it died at the end of the movie. It's like in protest. Animals were harmed. I'm not watching this.
No, that's a good movie about if you're talking about Skynet. So
what about the Terminator?
Terminator keeps going. They never stop Skynet. It keeps on evolving.
But so, in your opinion, are there safeguards to prevent that sort of a future?
Not really. Eventually they might come up with it, but we are the nascency of AI, and so it's going to take time. Once nothing is fully automated, anyways. So once it goes fully automated, maybe the safeguards might come in, but I don't know if presently they have any safeguards.
What about robots? Robots also contribute to automation. And there are robots that assist you. There are robots that are scary good at following you now.
Yeah, Boston.
Yeah, exactly. Boston Dynamics. They've made fantastic robots. Now, what if they malfunction for whatever reason and come for you? Are there safeguards?
No, you just pick up a gun and shoot them with a 50 caliber gun.
So Second Amendment, basically. But not for India because we don't have guns, do we?
No, you need a knife. Yeah, but
so security is a major issue then.
Yeah, that is eventually it's going to come in. That's why you see Elon Musk and all these doomsday guys say it's very hard to prevent AI to go rogue. You never know when it's going to go rogue.
Right.
There was an AI system which made its own language to speak between itself.
Which is wonderful, right? Like now you're just entirely screwed. I wanted to changing topics, changing gears to something that's a little more fun. Can you think of how AI is improving entertainment?
Entertainment? AI in entertainment or automation?
Yeah, automation in entertainment. Pardon me. We talked about videos. Like again, from an accessibility point of view, we are getting camera shots that we never got before, like someone skiing and not skiing, water skiing.
In the drone camera fitted GoPros.
Yeah. There are those. You have the Mars rover as an example. I shouldn't call it entertainment, but the Mars rover is an automated drone of sorts, right? Like it's going in on an exploratory mission, so we can maybe deploy a similar concept across other planets. Maybe. Sorry,
they have the ones with the GoPros, which goes with automated. It follows you. So let's say you go
like a drone attached to the
basically
a GoPro attached to the drone. Yeah, seen that.
So let's say you're going skiing, and you want a video of how good you're skiing, and you can attach that drone and the GoPro will follow you. That's complete automation of in entertainment. One of the examples.
And education, I guess. Like you can improve your form if you can see yourself, as opposed to from before where you needed another person.
Correct.
Yeah, I was also thinking in terms of like now you have drones, you have drone racing. I was thinking of racing because a calendar event just popped up, Formula One, Austrian Grand Prix. It's like, yeah, what about drone racing? That'd be fun.
So So all this comes into something called urban air mobility. So that's something which is being talked about. So urban air mobility is where like it's like air traffic control for drones. So how would
Yeah.
you control all these? Like how would you bring all these into it? Because none of these are, there's no registration of drones. You can just buy it and fly it. So how would you bring some kind of semblance of using the air traffic control about around you using these drones? That is
Right.
something.
And like if you were thinking about planes, air traffic control controls what height and what speed planes
Hmm.
fly in. Now with drones, like the more accessible they get, the more they might be out in the sky. And what if one drone's bumping into another?
Yeah, once the proliferation happens,
Hmm.
it's gonna happen. So that's when urban air mobility will come in. So, for example, if there are drone taxis, right? So, how would you prevent one taxi crashing into another one? So there's these EV tolls which actually fly, customers from one, taxi riders
What
from
does eVTOL stand for?
eVTOL, electronic virtual takeoff and landing. So these are
Vertical?
drones,
Did you say
vertical,
vertical? Right.
yeah,
Right.
vertical takeoff and landing. So these
Right.
are systems which can take off and they don't need a runway. They're basically a hybrid between a helicopter and an airplane. They can go fast, but they don't need to land on a runway, or they don't need a runway to land.
Right, and now all of these things that we've been talking about run on electricity primarily, right?
Hmm.
So what are we doing about a more sustainable future? Like we've already talked about how, or we predominantly know how these batteries are bad in terms of a mining. They're a mining hazard. They're going to be
Hmm.
they're going to be hard to dispose of as well. So what are we
Sure.
talking about from a
Sustainability
sustainability?
perspective,
Yeah,
if we go from lithium to sodium, so if the batteries become sodium based batteries,
yeah.
it's abundantly available everywhere. So sodium is sodium chloride, salt, regular table salt. So, but lithium,
Hydrogen as well, right?
yeah, hydrogen as well. Hydrogen is going to take time because the storage part of it is going to be very hard. So because storing hydrogen is not that easy.
Another use case
So,
I was reading about was that I was thinking about it in terms of how forested land is essentially a carbon capture pit.
mhm.
Now with drones, you can accurately map out what trees are within a specific space, and then I believe there is a company, I forget which, I read about it a couple of years back, a company that maps forests, decides on what kind of trees they have and their capacity to capture carbon, and then companies can buy that out for a certain periods of time. So from a carbon capture perspective as well, drones or automated machinery is helping you map these things accurately without human intervention.
Yeah, basically, like reconnaissance for, civilian purposes. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so if you look at it, the drones can actually, if you there were actually these drones which are used in archaeology, right? So I was reading about these drones fitted with lidar, so you can
Okay.
actually see how far anything deeper in you fly the drone and see how far deep there's something inside the Earth's crust, or fly it on Egypt or somewhere like that where you can find if there's underneath anything going on. If there's
Did you
birds.
say Egypt because of that Giza thing? Like the
Yeah,
new chamber, the
yeah,
pathway that was found?
yeah. I feel like they found it with lidar.
No, they said something about gamma waves or something of that sort. I can't remember exactly, but they did use a wave spectrum to determine that there was something there.
Yeah, that's lidar. I believe that's the lidar then.
And LiDAR, by definition, would be light, right? It would use light. I'm talking about just a spectrum of waves.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, all right. So, from a sustainability perspective, we talked about carbon capture. We talked about. I was thinking, like there are instances where you're creating accessibility as well, not just from like drones can access areas that human beings can't, but from a virtual reality tourism perspective. You can use drone captured footage because drones give you a lot more angles within a specific space. I can create a digital twin of of a specific region for one, like to make sure that it's safe, like from a surveillance point of view. surveillance and maintenance point of view, but also from a VR tourism perspective. Like I can create a virtual world where you can sit out here in Vishakhapatnam and then visit Italy. You don't have to physically go there if you don't have the means, or if you're locked down in another pandemic, as an example. That you
Yeah.
have that, you have that for you. I say
So
sustainability because you're not flying there anymore, so we don't have Greta Thunberg saying shame on you.
no, you take a boat up there.
Right.
Yeah, but that is one perspective. What
Mhm.
about completely automated, like semi truck, or
So
um,
logistics and supply,
yes,
basically.
yeah. Where would you stand on that? Like, what are your perspective on that?
It depends upon the region. Like back at university, I took a course on African economics, and I read that their population was crazy about being truck drivers because they could drive around. Now, if I've automated that, I'm killing jobs, and that's something that might affect their economy adversely. From an American standpoint or from an Indian standpoint, I think some of that still holds true. I'll be killing jobs, but at the same time, I would maybe increase road safety. I don't know because I've like in my experience, I would give truck drivers a fair berth here. Like if I were driving alongside them, I don't know whether because some of them have to drive all through the night.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about inebriated drivers. I'm talking about like exhausted drivers.
Yeah.
Whereas automation would speed things up. Automation would be a little more reliable. Like I know that I'm getting constant data, like a management information system, sort of a plugin that already exists, but on I don't want to say on steroids, but on steroids basically. Like when I have a fully automated system. So from a safety perspective, from a scalability perspective, from a speed perspective, it is fantastic.
Yeah,
But
like
yeah, cost
I
jobs.
like the Tesla Semi. It's in the middle. The console system is it's not left-handed or right-handed. It's in the center.
Sure.
So it actually helps a lot of drivers. I mean, it gives you full access to the road. You don't have to look that side or this side.
All right. So a quick recap of what we've talked about. We've talked about three primary pros: accessibility, speed, scale.
Hmm.
We've talked about some of the issues wherein what were the issues again? We talked about how safety
So,
is an issue. We
so
talked about
safety,
how
protectionism, security,
protectionism
Skynet.
will bring in, yeah, we talked about how protectionism might be a requirement, regulation might be a requirement from a safety and security angle, I suppose. So that's more of a derivative or a precedent to an antecedent to safety and security. Those are
Yeah.
your primary issues with automation. I guess that's about it. Like, is there anything else that you want to, that you think is an imperative at this point? Or let's just say final thoughts, like future of automation, how far ahead is it to begin with, in your opinion? Will there will be clear, like we've talked about how protectionism might hamper deployment. We've talked about how because it's going to cost jobs, right? So
Hmm.
you are going to have a population retrained. So it might slow down the pace of deployment. So automation is coming for sure. But what in your opinion is going to be the pace? What is in your opinion is going to be the impact? What in your opinion is going to be are going to be the industries affected?
So automation 5 years down the lane. I would say, if 5 years down,
2028.
yeah, I think it's going to pick up steam by then. So it'll create industries and it'll destroy certain industries. Yes, that is true because it's going to wipe out certain jobs. It's going to like if farming, it's going to reduce the labor. So if you can
Mm.
spread out fertilizer with a drone, I won't need to employ so many people. And if I can automation using a tractor, complete
Or
harvest.
a truck, right? No
Yeah,
more supply.
yeah, I don't have.
Assembly lines as well.
Yes,
Manufacturing assembly
it
lines.
will destroy a lot of jobs. Yes, but when it comes to it's going to increase skilled labor. So who's going to maintain all these? So these let's say this John Deere tractor. there's going to be a lot of demand for people to repair these products when they break down. So that's where it's going to open up a new employment area. So skilled labor will increase, unskilled labor will go down. And people will have to be trained and forced to get trained to fix these problems.
Interesting. So in my opinion, I think every industry is going to be impacted. From a finance perspective, we're already seeing how AI is impacting certain activities. Healthcare, you have robots, you have AI. It's essentially going to take down some of the labor, the manual intervention required, and it is going to increase focus on areas that require a little more focus, a little more strategic thinking. I think at least on the surface, that's what it looks like. And in terms of a timeline, I'm going to go with a round figure. I'm just going to say 2030.
2030. Okay.
Yeah. For critical mass. For critical mass,
For sure.
All right. So I think that is about it for this podcast. Catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.